Good morning. Can everybody hear me? I can't hear myself. Okay, here we go. So first of all, I have this thing on and I feel like I really need to break out in song or something, but I'll spare you all that and won't take you there. So when I got the call from Stampin' Up! To do this presentation, I decided that what I wanted to do was to look at product in our holiday mini catalog and to look beyond the product itself and try to find another way to use the product. What I found with some of my customers, in particular with the product that I'm going to focus on, which are the holiday ornament framelits, that I had many of my customers to say, well, those are awesome, they're beautiful, they're for Christmas, and then what am I going to do with them? So I decided that this was the product I was going to focus on. Okay, so I'm hoping that through this presentation that I'm going to encourage you to think outside the box. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a technique that I think I created. I don't know, I've never seen it anywhere, so hopefully. I'm using our Whisper White cardstock. I've experimented on a couple of different papers, but I found that the Whisper White really worked the best for this. I'm taking I don't even want to call it an ornament framelit because when I'm done with this, you'll see that it's not necessarily an ornament. I'm taking some Post-it notes. Make sure you put the framelit the smooth side down on the cardstock, and I'm using these Post-it notes to hold it to the paper. Number one, because I'm really nervous and my hands are shaking and I'll move it anyway. And number two, I want to try to make sure that I keep what I'm doing inside the framelit. So I'm using 4 of them. Okay. I'm going to be using our brand new ink pads, and I don't know about you, but I have replaced all of my ink pads with new ones because I love them so much. And I'm using a baby wipe. And I'm taking this baby wipe and just rolling it to create, like, I guess I would say a paintbrush, and I'm folding it in half. And I'm going to run it across the top of the ink pad. I'm going to swirl off a tiny bit of color, but I'm going to use this kind of like as a painter, and I'm going to paint the piece of paper. I'm using this ornament as a stencil. Now, if for some reason you're really particular about making sure you have sharp lines, this is the way that I got around that. I took one of our blender pens and I just rolled it in the ink pad, and then on the inside of the framelit, I went around the edge just so I could make sure I had a nice, pretty edge. Remove all your Post-its. Of course, I'm a little floppy there, but you get the general idea. I let it dry just a tiny bit, and actually, the new heat tool, have you tried it? Do you love it? There is 2 settings on the heat tool, and I'm using the first setting I used at home to dry this a little bit quicker. And let me show you a couple of finished products using this technique. So the first one I did in the Real Red, Pacific Point, and Daffodil Delight, and I created a set of balloons and used some of the baker's twine in the limeade to make the ties, and then the little clouds I used are cupcake punch, and I used the top of the cupcake topping to make the clouds. The second project was using one of the bigger framelits. And this one has a little bit of the smooch spritz on it and some of our new crumb cake tool. And then I also used one of our faceted buttons down here. And then the third one, I took 2 of the ornaments. And after I did the painting and I let them dry a little bit, I used our Delicate Designs embossing folder and put the embossed image. And then where we have the little dots in that image, I added a couple of rhinestones, a couple of pieces of ribbon. I don't know how I ever lived without my Big Shot. And one of the things that I will do, and earlier I think it was Pam that was saying it, but when customers talk about spending $99 for the big shot, I let them know that the best way to get the big shot is by becoming a demonstrator. So not only will you get your big shot for $99, but you will also be able to get another $25 worth of accessories so that you can actually use your big shot when you get it. Okay, so after the painting, I thought about, and I was inspired by, I don't know how many of you, but I did create one of the ornaments that's on the holiday cover. I did a stamp camp last weekend, and I had 22 gals, and we created one of these ornaments in the class, and I was inspired by the fold, and again, thinking outside the box. When I looked at my framelits, I looked at each one of them and said, what do I see? So this one that I was painting with, and I saw the regular balloons, I also saw in my brain a hot air balloon, and I liked the fold on the ornament. So what I did was created another hot air balloon project, and I used that same technique that was used on the ornament, stamp 3 of them, fold them in half, and adhere them together. The balloon itself, the basket, is the bottom of the cupcake punch, and then I ran it through the wood grain embossing folder. Okay, so thinking outside the box, I also used this framelit to create a little string of holiday lights in the glimmer paper, which is always a wow because the paper itself makes everybody say wow. And then thinking a little bit further outside the box, I used this framelit and created 12 petals, and I used this one to create the leaves. I did 3 of those, and I used a 1 3/8 inch circle and then glued the petals around the outside. And one more, and that was using this one here. Oops, sorry. This one. And the big one is done with this. I love the googly eyes in the mini catalog, so I wanted to show my customers that although that's a Halloween kit, there are many other ways to use those googly eyes. So I used those for the snowmen. The tops of the snowman hats were from the cupcake punch, and I just lopped off a piece, and that piece that I lopped off I kind of used for the brim of the hat, and then a couple of scrap pieces of pumpkin pie for the nose on those 2. Okay. Thank you. Of course, I've got a mess here now. Sorry, Tom. This one, okay. Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to do was I had sitting around my stamp room my package of shaker frames, and I had not used them. And I said, okay, I'm going to experiment, and I'm going to do something with these framelits, and I'm going to figure this out. So I used the small hot air balloon, I'll call it, and I stamped in Midnight Muse. Using my 3/4 inch circle punch, I'm going to punch out the center. This is my favorite tool, the spitty finger. It helps me to, helps me to get things lined up just right. Not too much because you don't want to make your ink run, but just enough. Popping out that center circle. I'm stuck. Okay. There it is. Okay. All right, so punch out that center circle. I think it's one of those best kept secrets. In our catalog, we have the 12 by 12 sheets of Sizzix sticky paper. This stuff is incredible because it doesn't make a mess of your hands, and it really does make your project stick really nicely. I also am using a piece of our window sheet, and I'm using a 1 inch circle punch, and I'm just going to cut 1 circle out of there. I'm going to use my silicone mat just so that I don't get things stuck to paper. Have you played with the silicone mat yet? Whew, you know it, especially with hot glue. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, so I am going to use my sticky sheet. I'm going to stick the back of my ornament to the sticky sheet, pull that off of there. So I have just sticky on the paper itself, and I'm going to put my window sheet right on top of that. And then because the size of this ornament, you're going to be using not the big circle in the middle, but then the second ring out is a 1-inch shaker circle. Of course, I can't get it out of there. I'm making a mess of the other one, sorry. Okay. And I'm going to stick that right over the hole. I'm using the Silver Shine glass glitter. And I'm going to put a couple of pinches in there. And no science to this. I'll show you the finished project in a second, but this piece that we punched out, I'm gluing this onto a piece of white cardstock because I want to be able to see that image through my shaker. So I'm going to carefully peel off the top layer. Now to match this up, obviously you don't want to dump this over and lose everything, so I kind of hold it up to the light. Of course, got my hand in the way, sorry, Tom. And stick that on there. Okay, so that I have the little shaker. And the finished project, I created 3 of those. So they have the silvery shine in there. So I hope that I have encouraged you so that you can encourage your customers that don't always assume that what's in the package is all that it's used for. Think outside the box and really get a good look at the product and find another way to use it. Thank you.